Hello and welcome. My name is Shannon Kemp and I'm the Chief Digital Officer at DATAVERSITY, and this is My Career in Data, a DATAVERSITY Talks podcast dedicated to learning from those who have careers in data management, to understand how they got there and to talk with people who help make those careers a little bit easier. To keep up to date in the latest in data management education, go to dataversity.net/subscribe. Today, we are joined by Joe Devon, co-founder of Global Accessibility Awareness Day and the chair of the GAAD Foundation. And normally this is where a podcast host would read a short bio of the guest, but in this podcast, your bio is what we're here to talk about. Joe, hello and welcome.
Thank you, Shannon. Pleasure to be here.
Oh, I'm so grateful that you could be here. We were talking briefly before we started recording about how you're kind of data adjacent. You've always been data adjacent, but you're working so hard in data and you do so many cool things. You've been a keynote speaker at our conferences. What was it? EDW, I think it was a couple of years ago. Yeah, 2024. Such a great talk. Really enjoyed it. And I'm so excited that you could be here and joining us today.
Well, I feel like I've been family with Tony and all the conferences for so many years now. I love doing anything with all of you.
Oh, we so appreciate it, Joe. I'm so excited to hear more too about your career and dive in a little bit. So let's get into it. So you are co-founder of Global Accessibility Awareness Day and chair of the foundation that came out of it. So tell me, for those who may not know, what is Global Accessibility Awareness Day and what is the GAAD Foundation supporting it?
So Global Accessibility Awareness Day is a day to get designers, developers, anybody that builds digital products to become aware that they build products in such a way that it works for people with disabilities. And the GAAD Foundation is something that we started after about 10 years of success with the day, which was very grassroots, and we stopped counting when it reached 220 million people on the hashtag. So it's a pretty big event. The big tech companies changed the homepage for the day and typically talk about it. And so people started to say we should do this more than one day. We should care about accessibility every day. And finally, we thought, all right, let's do a foundation in order to help grow this and make it more important all year round. And our mission is about the values, culture, to make sure that accessibility is one of the values that companies care about and to change the culture of digital product development to include accessibility.
So when you talk about accessibility, can you define that a bit more? Go into some examples of how you help tech companies make their products more accessible.
Absolutely. There's lots of different kinds of disabilities. The most common one that people talk about is if you're blind, you need a screen reader because you can't use the mouse. You can use the keyboard, but you can't see where the mouse pointer is, so you can't really use a mouse. And so you have a device called a screen reader that reads the page out to you. And it's really important for you to be able to do keyboard navigation. Like every single activity that you could do on a page or on an app has to be keyboard navigable, right? Which is also great for power users. But that is an accessibility. I don't even know if feature is the right word. A lot of people get upset when you use the word feature because it's a core functionality. And then you've got audio description. If you're watching a video and there is sound, that's fine, but you might need to know if you're blind what's going on the screen. So there is an audio description track for broadcast, and it is available if the creators provide the description on streaming. And then you've got, for example, if you're deaf, you want to have closed captions, or ASL might be your sign language might be your native tongue. So then you need a signer. All of these are accessibility, just period, without the word feature.
I love that you brought into the if you to using the keyboard, even if you just want to be a power user. I actually got challenged by a mentor of mine to use Excel for a minimum of 2 weeks without the mouse.
Well, yeah.
It helped me to speed up what I do and how I do it. It was a tremendous experience.
Yeah, it's something that a lot of hardcore developers get into the habit. The power users, it's much faster if you use only the keyboard. And there are some really cool keyboards out there that unintuitively, they reduce the number of keys that you press because they have these modifier keys. And what you realize is the less distance your fingers have to run in order to type, the faster you are. So they have modifier keys when you need some of the more, some of the special characters. So there's a whole world of improvement along these lines. And when you're making things more accessible to screen reader users, you're also speaking to developers and the kind of people that are a little bit go too far in terms of maximizing what they do. And I'm trying to get there too. So I'm one of those idiots that do this.
I'm right there with you. I love it. So Joe, as the chair and the co-founder, tell me a little bit about your day-to-day job functions.
Well, my problem is I come up with too many ideas and then I wind up like doing a ton of projects. And now with AI, I saw a great quote that said that I used to have 2 to 3 side projects that never got finished. And now with AI, I'm able to do 10 to 15 side projects that never get finished.
I love that.
But I didn't really answer your question. So day to day, one of the big things that I'm working on is a benchmark for accessibility. So AI models, the coding assisted AI models, they're writing the code today for you. It's in the middle of taking over development everywhere. But how accessible they generate their code is very important. And so I created a benchmark under the auspices of the foundation in partnership with ServiceNow. And what we do is we test the HTML that AI models come out with, and we put it into a leaderboard. So it's a benchmark that says how well these models write code. But there's a lot of other benchmarks that we're going to come out with along those lines. And it's called AMAC, and it's at aimac.ai.
Oh, very cool. I love that a lot. So how are you working with data in your job?
Well, we generate, every time we run one of these benchmarks, that by itself generates 1,000 different web pages. That also generates a lot of JSON reports that explain or that basically score all of the web pages that are generated. And then there's the HTML directly. There is the prompts that go with it. This by itself is just a good chunk of data. But more importantly, where we're talking to different organizations, the data that trains the models is really important because let me give you one example. If you are trying to do sign language, there is a fair bit of data on American Sign Language, but there are as many sign languages as there are languages. So you have Japanese Sign Language, British Sign Language. At the Super Bowl, some signers got upset because it wasn't ASL, it was Puerto Rican Sign Language. And so some people got upset that it wasn't in English because even in Puerto Rico, most people use ASL. So just an example of some of the details in the accessibility community. But if you want the AI models to understand it, you have to have all of this data from people with disabilities and how they communicate in order that the models will be able to handle it.
It's fascinating. And things that you wouldn't think about on a day-to-day basis. It's a lot of data. All right. Well, Joe, let's talk about how you got to be into this role and the founder of, such important topic. So tell me, is this what you wanted to be when you grew up? When you were, say, 6 years old, did you say, I'm going to grow up and be a co-founder of Global Accessibility Awareness Day and a founder of the foundation?
No, people would tell me that I should become a lawyer because I would advocate a lot for my brother, for example. But no, I wanted to be a hockey player. And I'm still upset that I never had the talent to be a hockey player, but that would have been nice.
I love that. You're the first hockey player dreamer that I've had on the show. I love that. Thank you. But then as you were, and I love the reference to the lawyer. So as you're growing up, then as you're, starting to select your classes in school and what are you leaning towards and where do your passions start to grow?
Well, by the time I was 13, I got an Apple IIe at home and I had no access to books. There was no internet back then. All I saw was this black screen and I didn't know what to do with it. But at school, we had a bunch of people that had a whole bunch of discs with the floppy disks, the 5.25 inch floppy disks. And we might have been doing a little bit of piracy and passing along some programs. So that was kind of interesting to learn the different things going on. And then within about a month, I wrote sort of a crude Hebrew translation application and just kind of figured it out. But it was a lot harder. Now you can actually read instructions, manuals, and things like that. So I took to it at a very young age. But then I don't know. In school, I skipped a grade and then I went early admissions to school. So I started at 16, which was too young. I just wanted to have fun and I didn't really pay enough attention in school. I did take some computer classes and was bored from them. So I didn't pay that much attention. And then wound up doing trading, international trading, which is basically import-export in the 90s, just as Russia was opening up. So I really had like that business mind and had some really crazy adventures all over Eastern Europe. I could tell you more, but you might want to comment so far so that I don't just ramble on too much.
No, it's fascinating. So, as you're traveling, what are you doing for work and how are you, managing that?
Yeah. So what was going on there was just Eastern Europe, it was Russia, the Cold War was ending and they had massive need for food. And that was mostly food products. So I sourced out the food from factories. I was living in Belgium, sourced out the food from factories and then shipped it into Russia, sold by the container load. But it was, the reason I say it was wild is because we had trucks that were getting shot up on the way over there. And it was very difficult to get it there securely. Insurance was really tricky. And I became friends with some freight forwarders that said that their drivers would come back every 2 weeks, basically shot and killed. So it was kind of the Wild West. And as much fun as I had to kind of give that up after a while because it was just clearly too dangerous. I had friends who had one friend who was in a plane crash to Romania, just some wild events, and you get threatened if your goods don't arrive, that kind of thing. So that was kind of a total detour. It wasn't related to data at all. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, that's what it's all about, to hear the path, right?
Yeah.
And to where you got. That's fascinating. Wow. Okay, so you really are just like an entrepreneur and a go-getter from the beginning.
Very much so. And then came back to America. My cousin was working for a search engine company that was around before Alta Vista, let alone Google, called Compassware. And I had no idea what a search engine was, nor did most of the world. But he said this, I was using CompuServe a lot since I was 13. And he said, if you think CompuServe is good, the internet and the World Wide Web is insane. And so he brought me along there. Unfortunately, the search engine company didn't last that long. But then I joined a consulting company called Predictive Systems. And we took it as an early employee, and we took it public 4 years later. So that was good. It was one of the first few agencies. And then from there, I took a little bit of time off, but then American Idol called. I got a phone call from a recruiter asking me what kind of work I'd like to do. And I was like, I think performance is going to be, it's just interesting to me. Like, can you build a system that's really performant? And I said, American Idol would be one of those examples where there's a ton of traffic. It was the number one show on TV at the time. More people voted for it than for the president. So I said that, and the recruiter said, "Oh, well, I'm calling you for American Idol." And then that was a Friday. I packed all my stuff up into storage, and by Monday, I was in Los Angeles and working on American Idol. So that was a pretty crazy path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so what did you do for them?
I was a back-end programmer, so I helped them with their databases, with their data, make sure that everything stays up with the performance. And then we had a crack team. After a couple of years, they were very happy with what we did, and they said, "All right, we'll trust you to build the voting app." So then we built the first real major voting app for a reality show, and it went great. It went off without a hitch. The one day behind the scenes, so they pulled more and more people off of it because they had all this trust, and in the end, there were no back-end developers. So 2 weeks before we go live with the voting, they call me in, and they're like, "We need to have a look at this." And so we were about to go live with the voting. We were 3 minutes to go, and all of the servers were completely maxed out. And I had to go in there and look at the code. I found the problem, and then yelled, "Bounce all the servers." I yelled around the corner, "Bounce all the servers." So with 3 minutes to go, we were maxed out. 2 minutes to go, all the servers were at 0. And that's when the gray hair kind of started, because I knew we'd be on CNN and all those shows. So yeah, just a bit of a crazy story.
Very, very cool, though. Because it was one of the first shows. It was the first show with, the voting. And so, to be on the front lines of that's very cool. So where do you go from there?
So then from there, because we had all of these challenging situations with scale, and I had in New York, I was a part of a lot of tech meetups, and there was nothing in LA. I started 7 different meetups around performance and a variety of topics. Any technology I was touching, I started a meetup, and kind of got well known in the LA ecosystem. And that's where I met Tony Shaw and Semantic Web. What do we called it? Something like that. The Semantic Meetup or something like that. Then from there, I got to know people, and then finally started my own agency and got a lot of business, including from, American Idol and lots of other reality shows, and grew the company to 100 developers. And we're doing great. We're going to double in size in 2019. And then COVID hit, and what can I say? From there, the company went down, and I had to reinvent myself again, and that's kind of what got us here.
just for reference, in case any of our listeners don't know, Tony Shaw is the founder of DATAVERSITY, CEO and founder. So he's great. And I met up with Tony just as he was selling Semantic Web. So it's been a while. Yeah. It's so fascinating, Joe. I mean, you led a very colorful and very fun career here.
We get this question a lot in our webinars. How do I improve my data governance skills?
DATAVERSITY's Applied Data Governance Certification. It turns what you're learning in our free sessions into a credential that actually signals expertise.
If you're leading or launching data governance, search Applied Data Governance Certification from DATAVERSITY and see what's inside.
So our 2020 happens. Your current company is not thriving. But what made you land then on Global Accessibility Awareness Day? Why was that the next step?
Well, so I started my agency / dev shop around the same time as I wrote a blog post proposing Global Accessibility Awareness Day. My dad had been trying to bank. He was 87 and spoke 11 languages, survived the concentration camps, and was just a man that when he walked in the room, he commanded respect. There was just something about my dad that was special, and everybody saw it instantly. And so watching my dad be unable to bank because the bank's website was inaccessible was really painful. So I had a blog called mysqltalk.com, which had maybe 10 devout subscribers. That's about it. And wrote a blog post on there proposing this Global Accessibility Awareness Day. And to my utter shock, the idea went viral right from the beginning. We were in 16 cities in the very first year. And now we've run publicly over 2,000 events. When I say we, I mean the community. Just the community picked this up. So this happens globally every year. And there's at least as many private events by corporations that want to improve their accessibility internally.
Wow, that's quite the story and quite the motivation. Yeah,
and then this thing is just, so many events happened around it that we had Stevie Wonder did a concert for GAAD at the Apple campus. We've had Sir Tim Berners-Lee co-keynote with my co-founder. And then in 2024, I get a call. Usually I do about 10 keynotes on that day. In 2024, 2 weeks before the day, I get a call from the White House that they're running a GAAD event, and can I come over and speak? So this thing went just in 13 years went to the White House. It was pretty. I don't know. I don't even have the words for it.
It shows you found a very big need.
That's for sure. People always struggle to get a budget for accessibility. But if you're wondering how important it is and how many people it impacts, you can just look to a blog post that reached at first 10 people and then now, reaches a country worth of people every year. The numbers speak for themselves, right?
Absolutely. Tell me, what in this very impressive career, what's been your biggest lesson so far?
That's a good question. There are so many lessons. As an entrepreneur, you have to take risks, but people don't always understand that risk does not mean it's real. And if you're a true entrepreneur, you cannot see that a risk means that you might fail. You just can't imagine that you're going to fail. You go through the tough times, and you will. But you figure if you don't give up, then you won't fail. And I still think of it that way because, thank God I'm doing lots of interesting things and covering what I need to. But it's really real. Like there's no guarantee if you're an entrepreneur that you're going to succeed on the other end. And even though I was right there, my retirement was right there. You get COVID out of nowhere, and it changes the entire market underneath you. So I'd say really think about what you do and try and get yourself that. Like I could have exited many times over the years. I should have taken that first exit and then had that security and then, do a new one. So I'd say that's the biggest thing that I've learned. And now with AI changing the game completely, I think that people absolutely need to think about what can they build that's going to be sustainable. And I think that it's a data story. It really is a data story, because software costs nothing to create right now. You can make 5 copies of it. You can copy anything. You might have a piece of software that you think you have IP. You can keep it closed source, but as long as it's available to anybody with AI coding assistant, they just point at it, tell you all the features, and it will recreate it very quickly. So where do you have the ability to have a business that will sustain itself is if you have data expertise in a particular domain and data around that domain. And if you don't, then your margins, you might still be able to stay in business, but your margins are going to be compressed because the barrier to entry goes down. And your data is your barrier to entry, right? So I would say this is something for leaders in this space to really think about. And the audience, your audience here, is in a special place because if you are a data expert, you can understand how to implement AI in a way that you have some kind of moat.
Very, very true. It's been interesting to watch companies working to implement AI without any kind of data management, and then coming going, "Oops, wait."
Yeah, for sure. And people are in a really bad position because if you don't implement AI, then you're going to fall behind. You absolutely have to get your people up to date. And anybody that's programming and not using AI, they're in for a world of hurt. And if you're not allowing them in your organization to play with it, then the best people are going to leave. So you have to implement it, but it's not really secure yet. So it's sort of a catch-22. It's fascinating times, but it's tough times too.
It is indeed. A time of opportunity for sure.
Yeah.
So Joe, as diverse as your businesses have been, you've been in data, like you say, for a long time, working with data throughout most of your career. What is your definition of data?
My definition of data, that's a good question. I know it when I see it, data is just a symbolic form, a symbolic representation of anything, really. In an organization, it's a symbolic representation of the domain-specific information that you have in your company. It can be as simple as the laws that your organization is specialized in helping other companies deal with. So, for example, in HR, if you've got a people company that helps handle people, you've got all this information about the particular employees. So, how do you handle the permissions in order to access it? How do you follow the laws? All of that is codified with symbols of your information, and that is data.
Yeah.
Does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very nice. So do you see the importance of data management and the number of jobs working with data increasing or decreasing over the next 10 years, and why?
10 years. I mean, what's it gonna look like in 1 year is the question. But I think if anybody has some stability in terms of their job, it would be data, because there's going to be so much more data. First of all, the data is used to train the models. It's so important as the foundation of these large language models. Then you also have structured data. Right now, the large language models are very non-deterministic. It's all probabilistic. And you need to take this probabilistic information and turn it into some kind of structured data. And even though the LLMs themselves can help you with doing that, you still have to put certain guardrails around it, and it hallucinates a lot. And so if you have the know-how on the data side to direct it, to set up your systems, I think that those jobs are about as secure as any that are out there. But again, what's going on these days with these agents and these swarms of agents, I mean, I don't know who's secure anymore. I really don't know.
Right. It's changing so rapidly. I agree. What advice then would you give to people looking to get into a career in data management, to get into this space?
Really read a lot of the papers, the most interesting papers that are coming out, and make sure that you understand how LLMs work. It's sort of a miracle that LLMs work at all, but I'd say that 99.9% of the people that use them have no idea how they're trained. And it's a fascinating story. It's a data story. It's like really hardcore, a data story. And if you understand it, you're going to be very well placed to use it and to control AI.
Yeah, very much so. Oh, well, Joe, it has been such a pleasure chatting with you today and hearing more of your amazing story and the places that you've been and the things that you've done. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, when is Global Accessibility Awareness Day, and how would people find the GAAD Foundation?
Global Accessibility Awareness Day, it's easy to figure out the date every year because it is the third Thursday every May. It's the 21st this year. And the way that you find the site itself is accessibility.day. So that's accessibility.day. And then the GAAD Foundation is GAAD.foundation. That's how you reach it.
I love those URLs. Very, very nice.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Joe, it has been such a pleasure chatting with you.
Likewise. I'm glad we finally got to do this show.
Yeah, me too. And so impressed. I could probably talk to you for hours, but
yeah,
dive in some more.
We can do that.
So, but to all of our listeners out there, if you'd like to keep up to date in the latest podcast and the latest in data management education, you may go to dataversity.net/subscribe. Until next time, stay curious, everyone.